Thank you, Your Excellency Ahmed Attaf, Minister of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, Ms. Amina Mohamed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Ambassador Bankole Adeoye, AU Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Mr. Said Djinnit, Senior Advisor for the Constructive Resolution of Conflicts, Excellencies, Ministers, dear member of the UN Security Council, distinguished participants, I wish to begin by expressing my gratitude to His Excellency Minister Attaf for convening this timely discussion and for the invitation extended to Rwanda to be part of it. I would also like to extend our congratulations to Algeria on assuming the presidency of the United Nations Security Council for the month of January 2025. Your leadership during this critical time is greatly appreciated. We also commend Algeria and His Excellency President Abdelmadjid Tebboune for assuming the vital role of AU champion on the fight against terrorism and violent extremism in Africa. This leadership comes at a critical time, and we must prioritize swift and decisive action to ensure peace and security across the continent. Mr. President, this meeting could not be more urgent. The spread of terrorism across Africa, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, presents an alarming and persistent challenge. The challenges we face are multifaceted. Terrorist groups exploit weak governance, poverty, inequality, and unresolved conflicts to expand their influence. The porous borders of many African nations and the limited capacity of security forces compound the problem. Furthermore, the lack of adequate funding and coordination among African states has hampered collective efforts to address these threats effectively. Against this backdrop and in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the Sahel, Rwanda decided in 2018 to contribute $1 million to support the operationalization of the G5 Sahel Joint Force. This contribution was a demonstration of our commitment to regional solidarity, and we continue to stand with the people of the Sahel as they face the devastating threat of terrorism. Unfortunately, the threat is no longer confined to the Sahel, and terrorism has now spread to coastal West African countries such as Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, and Togo. This worrying trend highlights the urgent need for a multi-layered approach that strengthens resilience at the local, national, and regional levels. Mr. President, terrorism has also reached the southern part of our continent, particularly in Cabo Delgado, Mozambique's northernmost province, where Rwanda, on the request of the Mozambican government, has made significant contributions to eradicate it. Since deploying our troops to Cabo Delgado in July 2021, the security situation has drastically improved. Together with our Mozambican counterparts, we have achieved the following milestones. First, capturing terrorist strongholds in key districts like Musimboa, Da Praia, Palma, and Muidumbe. Second, securing strategic infrastructure, including the critical road N380, which connects districts in the northern part of Mozambique. Third, enabling the safe return of over 600,000 internally displaced persons. And fourth, restoring basic services such as schools, markets, and health centers in previously devastated areas. To consolidate these achievements, we decided to deploy an additional 2,500 troops to Mozambique, reinforcing the 1,000 troops deployed in 2021. These demonstrate our unwavering commitment to ensuring peace and stability in the region. Mr. President, closer to Rwanda, the Great Lakes region continues to face the threat of terrorism, particularly from the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, operating in Eastern DRC. The ADF, identified as one of the groups responsible for the most egregious human rights violation in DRC, has claimed the lives of over 650 civilians since June 2024, including more than 200 in the Beni region alone. Despite this clear and present danger, it is appalling to see that the government of DRC has chosen to divert attention from this real terrorist threat by labeling another movement, the M23, which is a group fighting to protect a persecuted Congolese community, as a terrorist organization. For several decades, this community that the M23 now defends has faced systematic marginalization, forcing many to seek refuge in neighboring countries, including Rwanda, where we host over 100,000 refugees. This brings us to an important question. Who has the legitimacy to define terrorism, and which groups should be designated as terrorist organizations in Eastern DRC? Can a UN member state allow itself the right to abuse this notion of terrorism for political and diplomatic gains, including vis-à-vis the UN Security Council? When we look at it, who can be qualified as terrorists in Eastern DRC beyond the ADF? Is it the M23, a Congolese movement that is protecting a persecuted Congolese community, victim of hate speech? Or is it the FRDC National Army that has embedded the FDLR genocidal force, which is not only a UN-sanctioned group, but also a movement that was designated by the US government in 2001 as a terrorist organization? And what do terrorist acts look like in Eastern DRC? Can the protection of a persecuted Congolese community be qualified as terrorism, or is it the targeting, persecution, and killing of civilian Tutsi in Eastern DRC, including through the burning down in October 2023 of more than 300 homes of Congolese Tutsi in Turo village, Masisi territory, by the FRDC, the Nyatura, and the FDLR militias, which should be qualified as terrorism? We cannot hope to resolve the threat of terrorism if we fail to identify and address its true perpetrators. The international community must ensure that efforts to combat terrorism are rooted in impartiality, justice, and a genuine commitment to peace. Mislabeling groups or ignoring systemic injustices only perpetuates cycles of violence and undermines the credibility of our collective actions. Mr. President, in this regard, Rwanda proposes the following concrete steps to strengthen African leadership in counter-terrorism efforts. First, we must significantly enhance the operational and logistical capacity of the African Union, peacekeeping forces, and regional security architectures, such as the G5 Sahel and the Multinational Joint Task Force. This includes providing specialized training, modern equipment, and sustainable resources to empower African forces to effectively prevent and respond to terrorist threats. Rwanda's collaboration with Mozambique offers a compelling example. This model of bilateral cooperation underscores the potential of tailored, context-specific interventions. The Security Council and the international community should therefore encourage and support such arrangements, as they have proved productive in addressing terrorism challenges in some affected member states. Second, counterterrorism must be integrated with development and governance initiatives. Terrorism thrives in regions where poverty, unemployment, and lack of basic services prevail. We need to invest in sustainable development programs that address the root causes of violent extremism. Governments must work to close governance gaps that terrorists exploit to sow discord and gain support. Third, we must continue strengthening the African peace and security architecture, APSA. This requires ensuring that the institutional frameworks are fully operational and equipped to provide timely and regional tailored responses. Mobilizing financial resources for the AU Peace Fund and other mechanisms will help reduce dependency on external donors and reinforce Africa's ownership of its security challenges. Fourth, we must prioritize regional cooperation and information sharing. African nations must establish secure channels for intelligence gathering, enabling swift and collective responses to cross-border threats. This collaborative approach should also involve partnerships with international allies who can support capacity building and resource mobilization. Fifth, prevention must be at the heart of our strategy. Governments need to implement early intervention programs to counter violent extremism, focusing on youth empowerment and community resilience. Promoting tolerance, respect for human rights, and inclusion through grassroots initiatives will help address grievances that extremists exploit. These interventions must be driven by our shared responsibility as Africans to ensure that terrorism does not derail the aspirations of our continent's people. Mr. President, to conclude, Rwanda remains committed to working with regional and international partners to address this growing threat. By focusing on the root causes of terrorism, strengthening resilience, and supporting African-led initiatives, we can build a safer and more secure continent for all. I thank you.
I thank